Bonjour and welcome or welcome back to my channel, Claude here. Today I'm going to be reviewing a tarot book that I really like and I've had for a while. I find it a very nice source of inspiration. It's a tarot spreads by Barbara Moore. It says layouts and techniques to empower your readings. Now, I've had this book actually, for more than a few months, we're talking a long time. But I'm a big fan of Barbara Moore, and the reason why I purchased this book is because I own quite a few of her tarot decks, and I was always struck as to how good the guidebooks are with her decks. So, the Tarot in Wonderland, the Wizard's Tarot, to name but a few, I can't remember of all of the ones I have, but the guidebooks are always so rich and with very interesting and original spreads. So anyway, I looked it up and I found this book that she wrote, which I thought was something to share with you guys. So this is what the book looks like. This is the spine, and it's obviously damaged because I've worked with it a lot. It's a Llewellyn publisher. So it says, seek patterns among the cards as you explore the world of tarot. So bring power, precision and depth to your tarot readings with this helpful and easy to use guide. It presents techniques usually found only in workshops, plus nearly 70 different themed spreads, so you can choose or create the perfect spread for any question or purpose. Tarot expert Barbara Moore explains what makes a great tarot spread and why, including how the principles of design and psychological response play a part. In addition to simple techniques that will make your readings more fun and more accurate, you will discover new ways to help you create a reading style that is all your own. And that's true. I can, it's been a big eye-opener for me. Select a spread and use it effectively for guidance in important areas such as love and relationships, achieving goals, spiritual journeys, financial abundance, health and situation-specific advice. Perform a 78-card reading to deepen your understanding of tarot and create your own spreads and modify classic spreads. This is her picture. And it tells you that she is the author of Tarot for Beginners and several guidebooks for tarot kits. She studied and taught tarot methodology for more than 2 decades. Barbara teaches and speaks at tarot conferences around the world and writes for Llewellyns.com popular tarot blog. And you can visit her online. This is her website, thetarotshaman.com. This is the price it retails at. And you can get it on Amazon very easily. Now I've put loads of bookmarks because these are the things I want to talk to you about. And I will timestamp all the chapters, so if I'm boring you, just skip. So this is what it looks like when you open it. She has a special thanks to Katie McBrien and Amy Glazer for perspective and encouragement, and Becky, as always, for the sparkle. Sometimes it takes a village. For Lisa, because it was, after all, her idea. So you have a table of content. So list of spreads and introduction. Then you have Chapter 1, Tarot Spread Basics. Chapter 2, Design Principles and Layouts. Chapter 3, Collection of Spread. Chapter 4, Techniques to add to any spreads. Chapter 5, How to modify spreads. Chapter 6, Do-it-yourself spread design. Chapter 7, How to do a 78-card readings. And then conclusion, spread cross-references, annotated reading lists, and Appendix A, B, and C, where she goes in depth as well. So you've got pages, references for the spreads that she talks about. It's all very clearly referenced, very easy to find your way around the book, which I enjoy. So you have an introduction. She tells you a bit about herself and, how she began her journey with the tarot and creating spreads. And then she moves on very quickly to Tarot Spread Basic. And I love the first sentence where she says, a reading is an event. I agree. A reading is a big thing. It's a personal thing. And I really just love the opening sentence. I had to share it with you. So she explains what you need to do an effective reading. Let me just put it down because it's a bit heavy for my hands. And she moves on to explaining really the basics, 1, 2, 3, past, present, future, choices, spread. So she talks about the basics. And then she says that you may want to have a spread collection at your fingertips because, you know, we have different needs and questions. And so she said, for instance, that it would be a good idea to start by having a spread for each of the following types of readings. So general readings, love, relationship, work, career, health, and spiritual life. These are obviously just suggestions, but I thought it was a good starting point for someone who is just starting, thinking about this. And then, I've put this here because that was important to me, she made a big thing about beliefs, styles, and technique. Because she said she's going to refer to these quite a lot in the book. The beliefs are your worldview and describe how you think the world works. Through them, you recognize how tarot functions in that world as well as in your hands. And they also shape how you use the cards and how you want to use your cards. And so your beliefs answer questions like, is the future predetermined? It was a very good point to think about. How much control do we have over our lives? Does the act of reading the cards simply reveal the future, or does it change the future? Is the future able to be revealed? Is it possible to read for someone who isn't present? Is it okay to read about someone without their permission? Where do the messages in a tarot reading come from? And are the messages from the divine? And if so, are you obligated to tell the querent anything and everything you see, good or bad? And she says the answer to these questions and more come not from tarot or what any author or teacher says about tarot, but from your personal belief system. So know what you think, know what you live by, and know what guides you, and let everything you do with your cards be directed by that. So I thought that was really interesting, thought-provoking. So I thought I'd share that bit with you particularly. Then she talks about organizing your spreads. And then using your new spreads, because she's right, you need to take them for a spin before you can be confident with them. So she says you could, for instance, to gain experience quickly, read for yourself, read for celebrities, you know, the people you see in Hollywood magazines, just see what you could do with that, invent querents to read for, volunteer to read for free on tarot website or tarot forum, join your local tarot meetup, and I mean you could read for friends, and so on. Then chapter 2, design principles and layouts. Now this is a very nicely done, really explained from the ground up. So design principles, emphasis or balance. Then she talks about symmetry, spacing in a spread, repetition, and then layouts, because obviously the layouts have their own energy. So you could see you have the single card, the pairs, and there's obviously drawings to help you with that, lines, sorry you can't see that, line, whether like that or like that or like that, a bridge, the card that's in this position here, a grid, which is very Lenormand style, triangles, and the different positioning. You could have a cross, you could have a circle. So all of these things to consider before you actually come up with your own. And then theory into practice, because she's a practical person, so she shows you how the Celtic cross works, really in depth. And then we move on to chapter number 3, which is a collection of spreads. Now this is a big section because it goes all the way up to page 143 and it starts at 35. So you've got 108 pages of spreads. So she starts with traditional spreads. And in here, you know, you've got the Celtic cross, the things that you would expect and some that you may not be aware of. Then she moves on to general spreads. So spreads for general readings is what it means. Many variations. I mean, there's so many of them. And then you have the yes-no spreads. I'm not a big fan of yes-no spreads, but you know, if you need an answer, a direct answer. So she gives you a few examples and also gives you M.K. Greer's yes or no spread right here, which I thought was a nice touch. And then here you have the love and romance spreads. So again, you have a few pages of that with all of the possible love questions you may have. I quite like the shape of this one, if I'm honest, laid out like a heart. I thought that was interesting. and readings about money. And then she moves on to special spreads. So all the spreads that don't fit into any of the categories she mentioned before. And I really, really like that, because this is where she gave me a very good idea actually here. She talks about considering a tarot card, like a major arcana, and making a spread related to it. So for instance, she talks about the answer the call spreads, which is this one here, 5 cards. And she says, the judgment card is about, in part, hearing a calling. It is a moment when you feel compelled towards something larger than yourself. These callings can be difficult to respond to, as they can be powerful, but sometimes vague or very different from your current way of thinking. This spread helps clarify the calling and gives advice on how to respond to it. And so I really like that idea of picking a card and making a spread based on it. So card number 1 is the actual nature of the call. Card number 2 is your spiritual response. Card number 3 is your intellectual response, number 4 is the emotional response, and number 5 is the physical response. And she has other ones, but I thought I'd mention this one because I really like that under the special spreads. We then move on to chapter 4, techniques to add to any spread. Again, very interesting, because the techniques are not the spreads, but they're more, they help you, they enhance the spread, which is really interesting. So she talks about piles of cards, pairs and triplets. I'm not going to read it all because it's going to bore you. Plus, if you want it, buy the book. Double your insight, change your focus, on the move. These are all techniques that she's, developed and that you can use with the spreads. Double vision, playing the hand you are dealt. Topsy-turvy. Division leaders, do the math, layers, and the grand finale. And then clarifying the clarifier and bonus tip. I mean, this book is a mine of tips. Then you have how to modify spreads, which is what I was really interested about, to be honest, because, I know most traditional spreads and they don't necessarily work for me, so I learned a lot through the years using this, modifying the spread. So, for example, the modified horseshoe spread. And she explains how she modified this, which I thought was interesting. So she goes on about that. Then you have chapter 6, do-it-yourself spread design. So this is actually designing your own spread. This is where it becomes very interesting. So she goes through the element of the spread right here, the focus, the tarot decks. Because some tarot decks have a feel or a theme and it suggests a type of spread sometimes. So then she gives you examples. She always gives you examples to illustrate what she's trying to say or convey. So you get more examples of spreads that you could use. Yeah, it's very, very interesting. And I have put this here for a reason. Let me think about this. Yeah. Oh yes, because towards the end of this chapter, she talks about testing your spread and having a DIY spread checklist. So before you deem a spread complete, make sure you take it for a spin. Spreads that make perfect theoretical sense may not play out the way you imagine. If you need more ideas for ways to test out your new spread, see the section on using new spreads starting on page 12. But there is the spread checklist. Identify the focus, what positions are needed, layout, numbering the positions, cards face up or face down, reversals or not, techniques added, and the testing. So I thought that was a really nice thing to go through once you've designed your own spread, which is great fun to do. And then the how to do a 78 card reading, which is the last chapter. So that's using every single card in a tarot deck. So if you're interested in this, she explains it. And she really goes through all of it. I mean, you need a big table, you can see. But it's interesting, it really is. And then there's a section, the spread cross-references, which I found very, very helpful. That's all the spreads listed under the topic. So achieving a goal, these are the spreads with the page references. And then you can modify them or do something about it. Advice, and then you've got, they're all listed. So, choices, deciding between two. Oops, sorry, you can't see that. Decision-making, emotional upheaval, financial, focus, general situations, health overview, life change, spiritual journey, you name it, it's there. That's very handy. Then she has an annotated reading list if you want to expand on this, but to be quite honest, there's so much in this book, I've not felt the need, but it's there for you if you want it. And then we have the appendix. So Appendix A is to do with curious old spreads, and you see 1888, so this is kind of old, but she explains it, and I love how there's illustrations every time, because tarot is very visual. So she goes through a few of the curious old spreads. Then B is elemental dignities, so how to apply this concept to a reading, you know, looking at what's next to it and so on and so forth. And she explains the wands, cups, swords and pentacles, you know, and how they refer to the elements and how they are opposites or how they complete each other. That's also very interesting. And then she has an appendix about the significator, if you use them. You know, this is a card that's used to represent a querent. I sometimes use them when I have a personal client, but otherwise I don't. But it's interesting, and she gives you obviously her own methods. And that's it. So this is a mine of knowledge for beginners as well as for experienced tarot readers. I've been reading tarot since I was, oh God, it was a long time ago. So yeah, nearly over 25 years, I'd say, between 25 and 30 years. And I found so many good ideas and techniques I'd forgotten about. It really is, it builds you up from the ground all the way up. And quite frankly, for what, under $17, it's a mine of information. I highly recommend it. So let me know what you think. Do you have it? Do you enjoy it? Are you planning on buying it? I'd love to discuss, well, anything tarot with you. So I hope you've enjoyed this. I'm sorry, my bookmarks make it look very, very messy. But I hope you've enjoyed this. I wish you a wonderful day, and I'll see you again very soon. Until next time, au revoir.